Hi all, it's John, or Dad, from Dad's Shed. Welcome back to Dad's Shed. And what am I doing here? Well, actually, that's a damn good question. I'm using a machine, hopefully, that I haven't used for quite some time. This is my CNC lathe. It's a Denford Easy Turn that I rescued, not working, a few years back. New circuitry, running off a computer and running Mach 3. But I haven't used this for 6 years, mainly because of house moves and building the new shed. And this is something that's been sat in the corner because there's an ongoing project with this, very long term, which is an automatic tool changer. So that's not getting anywhere. Parts of it are in place, but it can actually be used. And what I'm doing now is changing my plan. This is what I was making, and it's going to be one of the bevel gears, and it's going to be for the vertical shaft. So that will be beveled, that will mate onto the horizontal bevel gear, that will then drive the drive shaft up to the next gear, which will then drive the spindle. It's drilled 1/2 inch and key weighed, but the problem I've got is there's not a lot of clearance. So I had a rethink, and what I've done is made a one-piece spindle and lower gear. It has two advantages. The first one is it doesn't need anything underneath to hold the gear onto the shaft. But the second one is I can use the shaft to hold the gear for machining. And that should be a lot easier. But I am very nervous because, as I say, I haven't used this for some 5 years. So if I go up onto there, get Mach 3 set up, go into auto, go into recent, turn dot tap. Now I've used a wizard, and there's a number in here, and you can go up, click on the top, pick a wizard, lathe turning wizard, run, and you can do outside turning and fillets, internal diameter boring and fillets, OD taper. What I've done is I've just put OD facing and OD turning on here. I'll come out of that. And having put all the information in there, it will then generate the G code. And it shows on this that I've got very, very little left to do. Most of the turning was done on here. I used, for the last part of it, the collet chuck, which I've just transferred over to the nose of this machine. So let's have a quick play. We'll go and have a quick think and a pray and see what we can do. Load. Cancel. Cycle. And there you've got the G code sitting up there. Now I'm going to have a look at this because there's a few bits in here which I'm not sure about. So I'm going to check my list of G and M codes, because one thing I do notice, there's no spindle speed put in. So I'm going to need to do that. And then I'll cross my fingers and pray. I'll be back in a moment. Okay, we're sitting here now. let's run a program and see what happens. I'll pull this across here, hit cycle start, and I've put a pause in here so it should go to its start point. If I'm happy with that, I'll let it run, otherwise I'll hit stop. Yeah. Right, that's done that. It's done the full cut that I'm after. So what I'll do now is I'll come out of there, I'll go back to manual, and I'll put in G0, which is fast move, and I want to go to Z1 and X 2.5. It just moves it out of the way. Now I'm going to just double check this, because it also makes sure I know where I am on this. .157, so that's nowhere near where it should be. And it says it's actually cutting down to 2.1346. So if I go G0 X 2.1346 and enter, right, G0 2.1346. That's got to be X. That should just go straight across. Yeah, that goes in. And then I can actually go up here and say to it, you're actually in the wrong place, mate. I'll reset that to say that's actually 2.1575. Enter. So it now tells it where it is to that dimension, so I know that that is now accurate. Quick mode, go to auto. Let's have a look at, let's turn taps, I look at the cycle. A quick look through that. Right. So that, to me, is wrong. So I'm going to come to the wizard again. I don't like that. That is not what I want. So I can go in and edit it. Where this is going wrong from my point of view is that it's starting in the wrong place. It's starting at 2.1465 and it should be starting further out than that. View, format. Okay, let's go to there. M3 S800. .2065 Z42. So it's the right place there, 206, 2.2, well it's 2.16, so that's fine. That's well out of the way. So we'll go to there. Okay, so let's go through this very quickly. And I know this is horribly boring, it's boring the hell out of me. Okay, so I've done a bit of editing on the program. Well, let's give it another go. For some reason, having used the wizard, it was starting too far out and not going in. So I've rewritten some of the G code, added in a few more lines, and let's see what happens here. That's looking good. Looking good. That's looking good. And let's manually move it out the way. Zero that. Let's see where we are. One, three, four, six. Exactly where I want to be. Excellent. So that's that bit done. I've got two more motions to do on this, and the reason I'm doing this is I really want to get my head around using this again, and I haven't used it for too long. But the other thing is I've got some accurate angles to cut for the bevels, and while I can set it up on this machine using blocks and everything else, and I can get it accurate, resetting it, and there are 4 different angles I need to cut, is an absolute pain in various areas. Whereas with this, theoretically, I can put the code in and it will generate the G code and it will then cut the angles I want. Or I can actually do it on my CAD program, and that will give me the points to go to, which will also enable me to cut accurate angles. So I'm a great believer in using the right tools for the job. I don't believe in using all this for no reason, just because I can. But if I've got a machine that will allow me to put work that's been taken down to close to size in there, and then program it to cut the angles I want precisely, why not use it? So I'm quite happy with that. I'm a bit peeved I've had to redo some of this to get to that point, but having done it, I can now start to look at the other 2 programs that will do the facing to depth, so that I've got the right thickness, and then the angles. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to play with this for a few minutes, and then once I've made sure that I'm happy with what I've got and that the G code I'm going to use will do the job, then I'll do the other 2 cuts. So I'll be back with you shortly. Well, having done the edit to the program a little earlier and written the G-code program in a text document, I've now loaded it in. I've done a first run, and that's actually given me a really nice bevel, but I'm going to just run it through again. It'll go through the same process. The last cut will be slightly finer feed, so hopefully it will end up in exactly the same place, but just give me a slightly better surface finish than I've got at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out of edit, and we're going to do a cycle start again from here. And sit by the emergency stop button. You should hear the motor speed up in a moment as it gets to this section. Lovely. And that has just taken a little shave off there. Nice surface finish. And let's see if I can actually get a bit closer in on that. So I'll come back here, I'll pick you up, and as you can see in there, that's the first bevel cut. I now just need to go and write the program for the second and third bevels, which will be good fun. That's the word I'm looking for, good fun. Okay. So just about finished this. I said there's only about 45 lines in this code. So I've gone down, I've copied and pasted as I've gone through, and then edited the G1 command to give me the feed in. And now at the end, it's now come out. So that is currently on line 41. So line 42 is a G0 move, a fast move. And that's going from Z 0.020, which is just outside, going to Z10, Z1.00. I'm then going to do a G0 to 2. Get this right, to X 2.5. And then I'm going to do a joint G0, and I'm just going to move that to Z2. So I've taken it out an inch away. I've then moved it outwards so that it's 2.5 inches out, which is outside the OD of the workpiece. And then I've moved it another inch away from the workpiece, and I'm going to remember that as my set point. So when this program is finished, when I turn it off, this does not remember where it's sitting. But if I know that I've gone to X2.5 and Z2, when I restart the program at a later stage, I can just put in that particular position, and that will then restart from there. So that's, from my point of view, the best way of doing it. I then got two final commands, which is an M5 spindle stop, an M30, which is a program stop and rewind to start point. So that is about 5 minutes of programming work just to get all those lines of code in there. One of the nice things about WordPad is that you can actually format what you're doing. So I've actually taken this up to a 20-point typeface on the computer screen here, so I can actually read it, because otherwise it's at 11 point and you've really got to be up close. So that is that done. So I'm now going to go into here and save it. Turning cycles G code is something I set up. It's a text file. It's a text file, and I'm going to call it bevel gear CTR relief. Right, bevel gear center relief. So what I can now do is put that back up there, because I don't need to type on it much more, just to operate the program. It's quite handy having these here, because I can actually just rest the keyboard there at a reasonable working height for sitting down and doing it. And being a person of advancing years, as I keep being told, advancing, not advanced, I hasten to point out, sitting down comfortably and doing it makes life a lot easier rather than standing up all the time. And it's now winter, and it's the end of the workshop, and although it's well insulated, it is getting cold outside, so a little bit of heat in here helps. Thankfully, being insulated, it doesn't need very much heat at all to actually make it a comfortable working environment. So I can close that down, go to CNC, to this. Now I've got here, come out and quit the manual mode, go into auto, load. Bevel gear CTR relief, text document, open. And on here you now have a visual representation of the code that I've just put in. Shows it's going to centre line, shows it's coming out and coming out and coming out and coming out, and then at the end it's coming out to there, there and there. So that's, I'm happy with that. That's looking about right. So I then go to cycle. And theoretically, if I close this up a bit, I'll close it up a bit more. If I do it that way, any muck is going to come flying out that way if I get it horribly wrong. And it's going to come out to 2 inches. It's currently set on 0 and 26 thou. So if I press cycle start, it should come out, start the spindle, and then pause. And I'll bring this over to the stop position, just in case something goes horribly wrong. Speeding up for the final cut. For some reason it says I've hit a limit switch, which I can't really understand because I'm actually nowhere near the limits. So it's obviously hit a sit. And the joystick actually gives me manual control of this. But it's actually done exactly what I needed it to do within that particular thing. It's just missed coming out to 1 inch. And I can't understand why it's hit a limit switch. So I'll have to have a look at that. But it's actually done the program very nicely. So that's that bit done. I'll have a look, find out what the problem is, and I'll then try the next bit. Okay, this is the diagnostic screen of Mach 3. So I've gone to that after the limit switch was hit for some reason, and it shows that no limit switches have been hit. So that's obviously some sort of glitch in here, but that bit is done. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go back, I'll quit this mode, I'll go back to auto, I'll go to load, and I'm going to go to recess. Cycle. Multiple X words on line 2. Okay. So I need to edit that. And it's telling me I've actually made a mistake in this, and I've actually put in X2, X1 when it should have been X2, Z1. Okay, so that's that hopefully corrected. So I'm at that particular point there, and on this again it's the same line of code with a G95, so it feeds at whatever it is per revolution, and it's 0.005. I've taken it down to 800. I've got a button tool in here. It's 6mm diameter, and I've taken that into account when I've written this G code, I hope. So I'll go to X2, Z1, then pause, 800 RPM, then it will go to a point which is 0.0747 out from the axis, or sorry, it's running in diametral mode, so it's at 0.747, so it's more like 0.37 out and 0.125 off. Now that is 0.118, so it's just about 1/10 off of the surface finish where it would have been, but I've recessed it slightly so it'll give it a little bit more clearance, and it will go into 0.115 and then come across, and it will then start a cycle of going in and out and hopefully cutting a recess. So let's hopefully hit cycle start, and I'll close that up a little bit more so I can see in from here, but it's well out of the way, so if there's any issues it shouldn't actually literally impact me at all. I'll just do a quick double check that I have tightened this up, having changed the tool holder. And I have. So let's hit a cycle start and see what it does. It seems to be going to the right place, and that's not. All right, and that seems to be not where it should be by any means. So let's go to, let's come out there, let's go to manual, let's go to 00. G0 using the MD line, manual data input, and that's going X0. Right, and that's nowhere near. So that's completely lost its positioning data. Well, it's not a huge issue because I can reset it. So I'll just do a manual. I'll come back this way a little bit. And then I'll come in very, very gently. And then I'll get my feeler gauges. And that's just going in fairly nicely, so I'll tell that that is now at probably about right, actually 30 thou. So I'll leave that as it is, but it's nowhere is that 6.415. That's more like 1 point. That is, but not on diameter. That's about right for well, let's go to 0 on that, shall we? G O X 0. Yeah, that's way out. So let's take that in manually. About 10th out too far over, so I'll let's hit 0. Minus 0.010. I would say that is about in the right place. Enter. Cycle start. Okay. Of course, yeah. Where I've got to remember that that is not. So let's go to, I've forgotten something here, something very important, and that is that the diameter of that is 118, sorry, the radius of that is 118 thou. So where I had it set at 30 thou out, which was about right, it wasn't 30 thou out, it was over 200 thou out. So, and it's only a fairly shallow recess. So I'm going to have to redo this again and do a reset on that. So if I take that back to there, wrong, come out, go to manual, go to the MDI line and put a G0 to 0 Z0. Yeah, that's about 30 thou again. So that's about right. But it's not. So I need to add on to that 118. So it'll be 1497.1497. So that's 0.1497. Enter. Now that should give me the right offset. He said, praying slightly. Quick mode, auto, cycle start. Excellent, happy with that. That's looking exactly how I'd like it to look, to be honest. That should then give me the right place for the next section, which is to cut the second part of the bevel. That's the result of this work, and you can just see the outer bevel that I did last time, the recessed face, and the recess I've just put in there around there, which is to give a little bit of relief, ready for the next bevel cut, which will come out at 90 degrees to the previous cut. And then you've got that area on the back there which will give me the rear bevel. Okay, so I finally finished on the CNC lathe, and that is what I've been producing, which is the 18 tooth blank for a bevel gear. So I've got the angles set up, so all I need to do now is get it set up on the mill and mill out the teeth. So useful to use. It's been a bit painful on the learning curve getting back into using it, but I'm really glad I have. I can use it for other stuff at other times.